Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Boom 2022. We are so excited to have you here today. I know that several of you wish that we had been joined in person in Indianapolis, but that's just not how the world was going to work at the beginning of this year. We had a number of issues with our hotel and even some of our speakers and things like that. So it was something where we had to go virtual. And like all things virtual in the past 2 years, especially, even once we made this determination that this was going to be more virtually based, we still had last minute changes and things like that. So you're still getting all of your courses today, but you will see that a couple of our sessions are recorded. We had a couple of speakers have family emergencies, but they provided us with notes, and we're going to be following along in the chat with you for a couple of them. But just some ground rules for today. Please feel free to use the chat function throughout the day. We would love to interact with you. We've got several really great speakers and sessions lined up, and I know that they will want to interact as well. If you have specific questions or if you have any sort of AV issues throughout the day, Click Meeting is the platform that we're on. Obviously, that's how you logged in here. But if you have any issues, one thing I will tell you right away is refresh your screen. Sometimes things get frozen, especially slides or video. And if you just refresh your screen, usually that refreshes things for you. Our entire session today will be recorded, and you will receive the recordings broken up by each class. So that way, if you want to go back and rewatch the website class at the end of the day, you're able to do so without having to sort of fast forward through the whole thing. I also want to thank our premier sponsor, Lone Star Signing Services. They helped us to put on today's event. We really appreciate them. You can learn more about them at lonestarsigning.com. And we appreciate all of their support for sure. A couple of our other sponsors today are DBello, Title Success, and SoftPro, and we'll have more on them later as well. So speaking of, this was perfect timing. Speaking of changes and life over the last 2 years, we're not going to go into all things pandemic, but schedules happen and things change. But luckily with things like this, I think we're all used to learning on the fly. So when my friend Craig Haskins told me that he had to make some last minute changes to flights and things like that, we said, look, we'll make it work. You can join me from the airport or wherever you need to. So good morning, Craig.
Hey, good morning. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm the guy that everyone hates in the airport that has conference calls. So here I am.
I think
live
everybody's
from Atlanta.
Atlanta at 9 a.m. isn't so bad. We do have a couple of folks from the West Coast joining us, so that could be worse.
Well, good morning. I appreciate you having me here today, and I'll try to help you out with some content and some information, and love the services you provide for us, and hopefully we can share that with some of the folks here.
Sure. So our general plan this morning, and before anybody haunts me in the chats, Craig, anytime you're not speaking, you might want to mute because there is just a little bit of background noise. Nobody has complained yet, but I know a lot of folks in this group, and I'm sure it's coming. I think that, my general idea with this like morning marketing coffee talk was to give people the opportunity to chat a little bit and tell us, kind of what's on their mind, what's a challenge that they've been having, what's a success that they've been having. And obviously you and I are going to share a couple of ideas here to begin with. And I think one of the things I wanted us to talk about is what I'm seeing, and I think you're seeing it. Craig meets with a lot of agents all around the country. He has a very successful title agency and Knight Berry Title that has, how many offices are you up to now, Craig?
85-ish.
Nice. 85 offices and growing quickly. So, we talk to a lot of folks around the industry. And one of the things that's fascinating to me right now is this sort of, I keep calling it like an arms race in marketing. And I probably, with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, I might want to change my analogies there, but people are trying to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to their marketing. If somebody offers one piece of technology, they feel like, oh, well, then I need to have it as well. And if somebody starts doing this service, they need to do this. And if they start promoting their commercial, I need to promote my commercial activity and all of that. And I don't know, what are your thoughts, Craig, on people that are doing that whole keeping up with the Joneses, trying to match people exactly where they're at versus setting their own path? Maybe let's start there this morning.
Yeah, and sorry for the background noise. I'm going to do my best here.
You're good.
Yeah, you can lead or follow essentially. So you've got to do something. And the thing, title's not the sexiest thing to talk about marketing wise. It's a very niche product. Closing's a little easier to talk about. It's a process everyone kind of understands. But I think overall, you've got to be more interesting than your other guys. So if your competitor's doing something and it's not very interesting, you've got to find a niche that makes it a little more interesting to get some attention to what you're trying to do. I'm sure you're going to go into some of the other services that are available out there, but I think just having an interesting thought is pretty important in this industry.
What does that look like for somebody? If we've got folks on here, I know that we've got a wide variety of people on today. We've got some in the title industry, they're title agents. We've got title underwriters. We have vendors. We've got real estate agents. And I think we even have a couple of credit union folks on here. So all over the place. Where should they start? If there's somebody that's like, I do feel, Hannah James just said, keeping up with the Joneses is the best way to describe how we're marketing right now. How do they pick a lane, like you were saying?
Well, I think find something that's yours, and I don't want to say exploit, but concentrate on that. If you're amazing at a certain product or process, whether it's lending or title, real estate, closing, whatever it is, just pick your lane and dominate that. Be more interesting than someone else. Don't say the same stuff over and over. How many marketing brochures can we all see about wire fraud now, where it's all the same stuff? So find something a little more creative than be on the lookout for wire fraud. Just for an example, I get one a day. And use resources that are out there. There's underwriters, there's Alta, there's Wayne, there's just general stuff on the internet. But I always try to pick an avenue that someone else isn't already in. And if they're in it and not doing a better job, then I'll try to do a better job.
No, I think that's smart. And lots of people like your, in the comments here, they're liking your leading or following and picking a lane. I think that's what a lot of agents, whether they're title agents or real estate agents or otherwise, I think that's where they kind of find those headaches. They are trying to do everything all at once. At the bare minimum side, I get that question every day about social media, like what should we be on? What should we be doing? We're on, 17 different platforms and we're not really seeing any growth on any of them. And I'm like, well, I'm not really surprised because you're diluting everything that you're doing. I think that, from some of the smaller businesses that you've encountered, how do they find time for this? I always tell folks, I'll say my perspective first. I always tell people, if you're not willing to talk about your business, to market your business, to put yourself out there, no one else is. And I think that's a hard thing for really any business, but small business owners especially, that already feel budget constraints and time constraints and staffing issues as of late and all of that stuff. How do they make the time aside from forcing themselves to do so?
Well, the problem with a lot of small business owners is that they work, what do they say? They work in their business, not on their business. So if you've got to make time to market your product and service. You just have to. You can't just sit around doing nothing and running your business. Now, look, a lot of folks in my world, in the title world, they're not experts in marketing. They don't like doing sales calls. They're amazing title people. They're amazing closing people, amazing lenders. Find someone in your office. I guarantee every title office, every closing, every lender has a person in your office who would be great at this. Have them take over social for you. It doesn't have to be the owner. It doesn't have to be the manager. There's probably some really smart young person in your office that dominates on all social platforms on their own. Have them help you. One of the things I wrote down here is you mentioned social a minute ago. I think people have to understand the differences between LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are way different audiences. You
Right.
can't just blast the same message about whatever you're trying to say on those platforms and expect any type of results. You've got to really hone in on, I'm telling you right now, the LinkedIn world is nowhere like the Facebook world. You can't, you've got to have different messages. You have to approach differently. It's a whole different world on both of those. I mean, Twitter's fun, Instagram's cute, but you've got to know the differences between those social platforms.
I agree. And I think that, like I said, we get asked all the time. I think if you're looking for ideas or ways to go down those paths, LinkedIn has, I've said this a lot lately, it's finally grown into its own. It's officially 19 years old this year, which if it makes you feel old, it definitely should. Not just you, Craig, but anybody. It's crazy how it's grown and evolved, and it's finally the platform that it always wanted to be. It wanted to be this. It didn't want to compete with like monster.com, which is what it did originally. It was purely for jobs. And even 3 years ago, I was telling people, look, if you see your employees active on LinkedIn, they're probably looking for a job. And now that's not the case. They really are. It's grown into this professional networking kind of machine, and allows people to learn and grow and have access to things in a way that they probably didn't even expect originally. And I think that that's a place, especially if you're looking, whether you're on the title or lending or the real estate agent side of things, I think that there is a lot to be gained in the investor side of things. We're seeing a lot of lender relationships through LinkedIn, that sort of thing. And then Instagram is where it's at for more of the not necessarily the younger crowd, but I would say the crowd that is most engaged. I think that's a misnomer for Instagram. People say like, oh, I've got this, my cousin is doing our Instagram for us right now or something like that. But Instagram is growing in all age groups. It's still the most engaged with platform if you don't count TikTok, which we can get into later. It's hard for people to kind of decide where to put their eggs, which basket. But I think you've got to, like you said, picking that lane, the more that you think through the possibilities and what you're really most interested in, the better it can be.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing on
Yeah.
that. On social, once you start, you can't stop. You have to send a consistent message. You can't just post something on Facebook or LinkedIn and be done with it. I can't tell you how many title agency Facebook pages I've looked at, and their last post is from 2017, and they just gave up. You have to post something. It has to be consistent. There's so much news. It doesn't have to be such and such person had a birthday in your office, or you're at a golf outing. There's so much content news-wise out there that your realtors, bankers, credit union folks, they like to read. And everybody opens their phone when you wake up and scroll through. And if your page has got something interesting on what's happening in real estate or lending, then you're a good source. But you can't just post one and done. You got to be consistent.
Joe Powell chatted here and said that hashtag ReTwit is big on Twitter. Why don't more people engage? And then he put a plug for his own handle there. And I think if you're not following Joe on Twitter, you definitely should, especially on the commercial side of things. He's a great resource for folks. But I think, Joe, the reason, I'll be honest, for a lot of our customers these days, I have said that, look, if you are trying to pick one of those lanes and you don't have time, like Nancy said, time management is the bane of existence for title owners. It's the bane of existence for most small businesses. And I think if you don't have time, Twitter's the hardest because it still, for the most part, has a very literal timeline, which means if you're not tweeting super often, you're just getting buried. And of course, there's the algorithm that's now showing you things you might have missed and things like that. But overall, you're going to have to be way more active on Twitter to be seen versus some of the other accounts. And I don't know if you feel differently, Craig.
Twitter's scary too. A lot of people are afraid of, Twitter bans, and I've been on Twitter since 2007. So, what did I say? What did young 2008 Craig say about his Florida Gator football team that would get him canceled today? So,
right.
I really have I watch everything I do on Twitter, but I love following it. I get most of my real estate news, most of my lending news from Twitter. Even if you're just following people and not engaging or posting, Twitter's a great resource for that. I love LinkedIn. I like connecting to um, topics and ideas and people on LinkedIn. And Facebook's kind of fun.
Yeah. One of the things you said earlier that I wanted to bring up, since some people are kind of thinking through that, like, how do I get started in this? Or maybe I did start, but like you said, they stopped. So they're like, oh, I got to restart, whether it's social or any other part of marketing. And I think that you talked about like finding somebody in your office. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know, once you ask those questions, I think some business owners have a very specific viewpoint of, I hired them to do this job. And you don't realize that once you start asking some of these questions, you find out like, oh, this guy does video work for his church every single weekend. This girl designs the programs for the local community theater. And they have all these skill sets that they're using outside of your business that might be able to, could they afford to use 10, 20, 30 minutes a week of those skills to help you promote your business, especially if you don't have time? I think the answer is yes. I'm obviously not running your businesses, but like I said before, I think that it's hard to find that time yourself. And so if you can kind of deputize people to help you, then that's the best step forward.
Look, I mean, the old thing, you got to spend money to make money too. You can't just run your small business or medium-sized business and let the competitors pass you by. If you're not engaged in whether it's social, any types of marketing, whether it's writing a blog, writing a newsletter, finding a topic in your local market and writing about it, becoming an expert, find an interesting twist on the development down the street. You've got to be doing that. Title owners usually don't have a lot of time for that. If you don't have a person in your office that can do it, obviously Wayne, you're here too, and you've done a great job on those types of things for us. But this isn't, I guess it's never too late either. But the days of doing nothing, engaging your customers with nothing other than just your good service, and good service will get you a long way, but it won't get you all the way. So you gotta start now, spend money, get help, and get out there. Not just social, but just in any type of bragging about your company, your product, your services. You got to do it.
I agree. And one of the ways that I've kind of put that in the last several months, at least, have been, we hear from a lot of people, I'm not looking to grow. I love the business that I have. I am in a 3-county area, and that's what I like. And we don't want to be some huge, mega company or things like that. And I think that what I tell those folks is there is just as much work in maintaining that business as there is in trying to grow. It's very different work, but that maintenance, if you're in that maintenance mode, it is much easier to sort of sit back and say, look, we've got plenty of business right now. We're not really worried about it. And then you realize in 6 months, oh, this much has trickled away, or they didn't like this one experience. And we sometimes we take that business for granted, I think. I don't know what you think about that kind of maintenance versus growth mode, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree with you. But you still need to market your products and services, even in the maintenance mode. If you're doing none of that, the guy down the street is going to do it and take your market share. So even if you're just, look, I don't want to get any bigger. I've got 60 closings a month. That's as much as I can handle. How would you like 40 next month? So someone's going to try to get your market share. I mean, I hate to say this, but the days of, this is my county, there's only 3 of us here. As title becomes more global, people can search from anywhere. People can do closings from anywhere. Everybody's going to go after our businesses. So we've got to not just try to grow. If you're not in growth mode, you've got to at least do some marketing to maintain.
Yeah, we literally had a customer in Oklahoma who had been the only game in town for decades and decades, and literally went on a 2-week vacation and came back, and they had a competitor across the street that they didn't know or expect. And I think that if you take that for granted, it's not wise at this point, because the world is too small and things are going to keep moving in that direction. Craig, I know that you said that you had a couple other things. You were thinking about modern marketing and challenges and opportunities and stuff for folks. What else is on your list? I'll let you throw out a topic and I'll.
Look, I don't want to say this too loudly here, but TikTok dances for your closers and title people. That is what's going to win in 2022.
So should we expect an airport TikTok from you today? Or?
Right. Wayne, I couldn't dance if you trained me for the next 3 weeks. No, but I tell you what, there's some creative people. So I have 3 boys. One's in high school, one's in college, one's just recently graduated. So obviously they check out the TikTok and send dad stuff, and it's all hilarious. But there are some niche people doing stuff on TikTok. I know I'm off on a tangent. I used a joke on TikTok, but let's take it for a minute here.
Yeah.
There are some people that find niches. I got obsessed with watching a guy remove beehives from houses. I got obsessed with a tree removal company. Like, one, I can't do either. But so there's probably someone in title right now doing something with TikTok that's interesting. That's not dances or anything corny, but it's a new media. It's taking over everything. I mean, everyone's talking about TikTok. My mom watches TikTok. She's 70-something years old. So it's interesting. I don't really have a point here other than to say, thanks for laughing at my joke. And there's probably something out there that's relevant in TikTok in the title lending community world. So
there definitely is. I get asked about TikTok literally every single day. How do we get started? What should we be doing? And I don't have a great answer yet, but I will say, especially lenders, credit unions, real estate agents, there is a place on TikTok. Craig brought up the dances, which is, of course, kind of what it was known for. Most people don't know that TikTok actually started as an app called Musical.ly, which was literally just lip syncing. That's why the dancing and that part is so popular, because that's the base of how it grew. But there is an educational component to TikTok. They just, and their proof is in what they just did. They changed the length of the videos. So now you can record for much longer. It's not just, it was a max of 60 seconds and now it's longer than that. And that's because people are staying, they know that they're staying on the app. And like Craig said, you get obsessed. You look at these videos and you don't realize, I tell myself almost every night, like, I am only going to watch for 20 minutes and then I'm going to sleep. And then it's an hour and a half later and I'm like, Jesus. But the TikTok side of things, the educational piece, people are searching it out, whether it's what does APR stand for? It's all the basics. It doesn't have to be down in the weeds. It's people just sitting in their office or in their car. It's real estate agents talking about, what should a first-time home buyer expect in this market? What are your options if somebody offers 20 over asking and you're hoping for a traditional mortgage? How do you compete with that? How do you, if you're really desperate for a house in an area that has no inventory, how do you deal with that? And people are seeing hundreds of thousands of views on that stuff. I am not promising you, this is a huge disclaimer, that if you start TikTok tomorrow, you're going to get hundreds of thousands of views on your content. But there is a place. It's not all dancing. That's the one thing I tell folks. It's not all being the viral dances and stuff. And there are ways to use the kind of viral moments that are happening and relate them to your company. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Sorry, that's why I stopped in the middle of that thought. I wasn't brainstorming TikToks. Yeah, Leanne Chadwick says, if we don't keep up with their needs to be way more digital, then we will also begin to fade. And I think that's true. I think that, I tell folks a lot, and I would love your input on this, Craig, since you own a company that has to interact with these folks. But I call, a lot of folks in the real estate space, legacy customers, if they have 3 to 5 to 10 years of business left to give. There's a whole section of the industry that is servicing those customers, but also trying to figure out how to attract and keep and start to retain newer folks that are in the industry, people that are in there. And I don't mean people that are getting their license fresh out of college or something like that. I mean people that are in their 30s that are starting to really create a foothold to have their career in real estate. And I think it's hard to to cater to both of those groups. I say all the time, if I was at a closing, for example, at a title company, if my realtor gave me a title company that wanted an hour-long closing, and we go and sit down, and it's at their office, and it's all paper, that's 1 star for me. Like, I don't want any of that. I want it to be remote and quick and fully digital, and that's it. And that would be 5 stars. But that experience to somebody else would be 1 star. And I think that's really hard to figure out how do you market that you can cater to both of those folks. What do you, I mean, you have to, like I said, you're literally dealing with those folks all the time.
Yeah, someone in the chat had a good point. Unfortunately, my iPad's so small I can't see who the comment was from, but someone said something like there's all these people exiting and retiring as new people are coming in. So if you've just focused on the crowd of customers that you've always had, your traditional, customer that's always used our company, those people are eventually going to find a different gig or retire or move on. There's always new people, especially in the last few years, coming into the market. So we've spent a lot of time on improving our demographics of our employees. We've got people that can relate to a 25-year-old coming out of college selling real estate or doing loans versus someone who's retired and now taking up real estate. We've got sort of the whole gamut, marketing to every single segment we can possibly market to. Another thing we've done, we have a person on our staff that teaches, she's somewhat younger, and she teaches our customers how to do video. So a lot of our customers say, look, I have no idea what I'm doing online. I want to post something interesting. I want to post a video about something, about my loan rate, about this home I listed, and how do I get started? So we've got a person in our company that, on top of selling title insurance and closing services, she's available to go in and give little demos for our customer groups. I promise you, just about every title agency has a few people that know how to do that, and it's a very valuable resource. There's obviously RESPA issues. You're not going to go in and produce an hour-long video in exchange for 10 title orders. So you got to be careful on that. But yeah, covering all your bases. Don't just cater and do the same marketing you've always done. Maybe it's been successful for 20 years, but somebody else is hungrier out there. We've also spent a lot of time recently hiring people right out of college who don't know what title or closing is. But my theory has always been, if you can make it through any degree in college, you can probably figure out title and closing at some point. And it's also helped because title companies, when they get busy and they're trying to recruit people, they tend to just hire the person down the street at the other company. And you retread the same people from place to place. So bring in your own new growth, bring in your own new people, train them the way you want. And I promise you they can relate to their demographics a lot better than maybe the owner can.
I agree entirely. I like that you kind of pivoted to video in general there for a second, because I did want to touch on that today. You're somebody that's not afraid of video. You do a lot of video. You, like you just said, you have incorporated it into helping to train your customers, which I think they value. We hear all the time, like, look, I don't want to be on video. I don't like the way I look. I don't like my voice. I don't like this. I don't like that. I tell our customers, I'm like, everybody's brave enough to get out of bed every day. If I walked into your traditional office and wanted to talk to you, you would come and talk to me, even if you didn't like how you looked that day, or maybe it wasn't the day that you dressed the best that week or whatever, you would still come and talk to me. And I think as you think about your digital doormat and the way that you're branding yourself online, that's kind of the mindset you have to have. I don't know if you agree or disagree, or if you have tips for people that are trying to figure out how to get comfortable with video.
Yeah, it is one of those fears. Being on camera and public speaking is tough for people. So again, back to my original comment, you don't have to do it all. If there's a person in your office that might be better on camera, maybe you can supply the content. Maybe you can be a co-host. There's some people in my office that are great with content. They just don't like being on camera. I'll lead them. I'll present like you're doing today. Put me in a small bubble. Put the owner in a small bubble and have them chime in every now and then, but let someone else lead the show. Everybody likes to see the boss, the owner, the managers, bringing those communication tools. So if you're not comfortable with it, there's always a way to get a little comfortable. Record a Zoom video. Have a Zoom with customers, lead a live topic and record it. Guess what? You're going to be this big in the bottom. So you don't have to be 8 by 10, a huge thing on your screen, but so I don't know if everyone's going to be comfortable with video, but you can't be afraid of it. I mean, everybody's
I
recorded at some point.
I agree entirely, and I think that I maybe from what you're saying, I'm too rough with people because I understand that it's very scary for folks. But another way that you can kind of get around it, if you don't want it to be you talking the entire time, I always tell people do an interview, invite somebody else to be part of the conversation. That's the easiest way, so that it's not you don't feel the pressure of you filling that space or time, whether it's 60 seconds or 60 minutes. To have somebody else. The more you do it, the more you're more comfortable with it too.
And,
We weren't sure with Craig's flight issues this morning if he was going to be able to make it. And I said, look, I'll fill the 45 minutes, but if you can join, that'd be wonderful.
well, you also have to, the people that aren't as comfortable sometimes don't understand that the topic they're speaking about, they are light years ahead of the audience.
Yep.
So if you're a title owner or a lender or a real estate person, you've got an audience of people who want to hear from you. That's because you have the knowledge they don't. They don't care if your hair isn't as cool as Wayne's. They don't care about that. You have the content. So when I'm presenting, I always think in the audience, I know more about this topic, maybe not on this session, but if I'm standing in front of even a bunch of attorneys and they want to know about a zoning law or a zoning endorsement or a title or wire fraud or something, I instantly tell myself, I know more than everyone in this room. So the content is king, and that will win over whether I'm comfortable or not. So I think, and another thing, always pick a topic you're comfortable with and always have an interesting twist. I said that earlier. I can't say it enough. You have to be interested. You have to find a niche that you own. Everyone in Milwaukee knows I'm good at blank. What is it? So that's kind of what you need to figure out and be interesting.
I think that's a really good point that some companies that maybe don't feel like they are as tech forward as others, or they know that they have an older demographic on their staff, things like that. That is not, I think they see it as a detriment. And so that gives them a lot of pause as to, well, we don't really know what to do or talk about, or we're going to stay in our lane by not getting involved. And I think you can promote your business still and be a part of the conversation and own that. I think you can own that you're more traditional. You can own that, why is that? Why have you chosen that for your business model? And I think the more that you can kind of lean into that, the more success that you'll see from all of it for sure. I want to remind folks that you can chat if you have questions or anything like that. Specifically, we've got probably 8 or 9 minutes left here for Craig and I's session. So if there's something you want us to touch on specifically, please let us know. But I wanted to echo what Craig said about no one knowing more than you do. That's especially true for our real estate agents that are on today. Nobody knows more about the real estate market in your community, and really, I mean, the title folks and the lenders too. Nobody knows more about what's happening on the ground in your markets than you. And so you've got to really own that and take it as an opportunity to assert yourself as a thought leader. And I don't know, Craig, if you feel differently. I say all the time, you can be a thought leader without being an expert. So, Craig's on here today, a thought leader on marketing, but he would probably not say that he's an expert in all things marketing. But he can talk about it, introduce new ideas, like to his customers. He can get them comfortable with video and that sort of thing without necessarily having his entire team being an expert on video. People get really nervous about that. Like, how can I put this information out there without, I'm not doing it myself? How can a real estate agent try to talk about TikToks when they're not doing it yet, or a lender or a title company or whatever? I think that's hard for people to wrap their head around, but you gotta just jump into the deep end, I think.
I'd see a question
Yeah.
on some technical stuff I can answer real quick.
Yeah, please.
So I think if you go to my LinkedIn, just Craig Haskins, I think is on LinkedIn. I don't know. You can find me. Look back through. We post about a video or two a month. I've taken a month off, but they're really nice quality. I use a Canon Rebel. You can get them on Amazon for about $800, and I use a tripod that costs $100, and it sits at the end of my desk. and I turn it on. I have a ring light like you can find at Target, but I have about $100 ring light. And I have a microphone that sits on my desk that's USB right into my camera. So I don't know, I might be invested $1,200. I've had it for 3 or 4 years. I flip it on, I record. I try to memorize my content, or at least have a little iPad propped up in front of the camera to remind me where I'm supposed to be. I record it and post it. Not difficult, not expensive. I close my door in my office and I turn on the light and I hit record. So there's no production crew or anything like that. And I have a good fun time doing it. And I have a rule that I only do one take, which makes my videos interesting for people that know I only do one take. So if I mess up, I keep rolling.
I love that idea.
Yeah, somebody asked if I use an iPhone. Yeah, my first probably 5 years of those videos before I bought a camera was my phone. But it was, high def video was taking up all the space on my phone. So I switched into just a regular dedicated camera. But yeah, my iPhone probably costs more than my whole camera rig and everything. So it's not expensive to do. I just don't like the camera that's on the face of the laptop. They're not usually very good. They don't really collect much light. And have a light and a good mic. You pay $100 each for them. It'll make your videos look 10 times better than if you don't have them.
I'm glad you said that. Yes, Joe, One Take Craig is his nickname from now on for sure. But I make it a habit before you create that investment. But like Craig said, you can start as small as you want to, but the lighting, the mic, a better camera eventually, that's all going to help you take it to the next level for sure. And I hope people take Craig's comments on forcing himself to do one take, not in a like I'm trying to be absolutely perfect the first time. I think that the way Craig's videos specifically are successful is that they're real. It's him just talking to his customers and colleagues and even his team sometime. And I think that that's what people want. They don't expect some like Hollywood produced, highly produced piece from you. They want you talking to them. And that's where the one take, it takes the pressure off of you. If that's it, then that's it. And you wouldn't get it if you were talking in your office or something. You wouldn't get to sort of like do the Willy Wonka reverse thing with them. You'd have to just keep it going.
Yeah, if you're in an elevator giving a speech to a customer, you don't say, "Wait, I messed up. Stay on the elevator. I want to get this right. But give me one more floor." Hey, Wayne, I'm gonna bail.
You're good.
My flight just announced they were boarding, so I'm gonna go jump on that thing. But thanks for having me, and I hope I was helpful.
You were. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Yep. So we are, on the fly today, as I said at the beginning. I'm glad that Craig could come in. We weren't sure earlier this morning with flight changes if he was going to be able to even be on at all. So I'm glad that he was. I think that he always offers a really interesting take to a lot of these things. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about before we get into some of our other courses later today, really quickly is, we're going to talk about sales versus marketing. We've got Brenna from Housing Wire talking about content in general and how you can find content. We're going to talk about marketing your culture inside of your company and out. That one I'm really excited about. And obviously some of the website stuff later today too. So that's some of what's coming up. So if that gives you any ideas of other questions you may have, one of the big questions that I get asked all the time is, how do I think about content? I can only talk about real estate so often. I can only talk about titles so often. I can only explain the mortgage process without it getting boring. I say all the time, some of you have been on classes with me, buy one of those writing prompt books and just think about different ways. And I know that in most of your businesses, you don't necessarily think of yourself as the creative one. But you have to think about how do I constantly, how can I talk about my business all the time or my benefits without boring people or seeming salesy all the time? And one of the ones I love the most is, how would you talk about your business if it were in a fortune cookie? Because immediately your mind just switched. So instead of thinking about filling some big pamphlet or a billboard or something like that, it's a one-line witty sentence about your business. How do you take your, maybe that's an exercise you could do with your team. How do you take your mission statement and put it into a fortune cookie? And then maybe that's something that you run with for a while. I think that another thing when you're thinking about content, I always tell folks, go and ask the person that answers your phone or has to deal directly with your customers all the time. Ask them the three most annoying things they get asked. They will have an answer. They always have an answer. But whatever that answer is, you should definitely use that for your content moving forward. That is something that if they have those questions, if they are asking the seemingly annoying things, it probably means that you're not um, answering that, educating that appropriately. That could be something as simple as, where do I park? What some weird form on your website, things like that. That's really simple content that you could be putting out there. And then beyond that, talk to your customers about why they love you. Talk about why they keep coming back, and don't let them give you one-word responses. Let them really push them to ask, what do you, if you really like our communication, what does that mean? Do you like how often we're communicating? Do you like how the person that's communicating, the actual method of communication, what does that really mean for you? I think that can be really helpful as you start to think through, what do we want? How do we want to make other people love that same thing? So if that's what somebody really loves about my business, how do I convey that to others? We're going to go ahead and take our first break here. Before we do, we're going to have a quick message from our folks at Lone Star Signing Services. And you can, that video will play automatically here. And then we will be back in 15 minutes at 10 a.m. Eastern. And please check your email, grab a cup of coffee, and come back. And we will have Linda Grohovic's session on sales versus marketing and why you need both. Thanks, everyone.